again, it's another month goes by. It's just crazy how quick we seem to now be in autumn in the Northern Hemisphere. And we've got another show for you. And I'm on my own today. For people that have joined us before, you'll know that it's normally got the delightful company of John McIntyre and Eileen Roden as well. And that they're out and about, and you'll find out a bit more about that in a second. So today you've just got me in the chair, as it were, pressing buttons and things, and hopefully not mucking it up. But if you're joining us also live streaming in a minute, so you can catch us on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're all over the place. And for anybody who's joining us in the audience, hello everybody, lovely to see you again. And hopefully we'll give you some things to think about over the next 40 minutes or so. But what we're going to be doing today, out and about as ever, because they are out and about, we'll find out a bit more about them. We've got a new segment for you, PMO Pioneers. We've also got the poll of the month, and we have somebody in our hot seat today, and then we'll just give a little wrap up as to what it is that we've been talking about, and hopefully you'll be getting involved as well too. So if you are out watching it there on social media, please do make sure you comment, because we'll be watching those comments as well, and we'll be bringing you into the show. And here in the studio we've got some of the lovely faces. So hi Alan, great to see you again. It's a holiday weekend, is it, in Glasgow? Lovely. So so the Scottish will be doing their things. Yes, I hope. We've got Becca back with us. Hello, Becca. Hope you're all right. Not seen you for a little while. Hope everybody's had a nice summer holiday, and you're ready to to enjoy the session. Okay, so and another one, Rachel, just back from her holidays too. So hopefully you're all back and raring to go and to do wonderful things around PMO. So let's get started. Let's have a listen to Out and About. So out and about, we normally, when we're out and about, is tell you a little bit more about what we're doing. And there is a couple this time. So let's have a listen.
Hello, how are you doing? It is John.
And Eileen.
And we are in Finland.
I know. We're really sorry we can't actually be live there, but we're having a great time over here in Finland, meeting some new people. First time for both of us over in Finland.
Absolutely. Meeting new people, and we're out here delivering some training. And I guess we're just here to talk about a couple of learnings that we've had and reflections that we've had from doing that this week.
Yes, so we've done 2 days, we've got 1 more day to go, but what's been really interesting is just recognising that actually making connection with people is the same wherever you go.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a great few days, but also when you go into this, has been training for project managers we've been doing. And you tend to think about the processes that you have to go through, how they need to follow the standard steps that we teach on project management courses. But when you actually get into it, you're reminded in the room that it really is all about human interaction, like all project management, right?
Absolutely. And, it's down to thinking about, we were doing a big planning exercises and we used good old kind of sausage and mash, and realised that actually sausage and mash, it may not be an international dish, but certainly across Europe, it just resonated with them rather than doing some large complex projects. So that worked really well.
Absolutely did. It was quite funny. Are we allowed to tell them that actually the night before we were doing it, we suddenly had a panic as we were walking through the slides together in the hotel bar, and we sort of thought, oh, actually, what if people in Finland don't have sausage and mash as part of their regular diet? And imagine if we're standing up front and we suddenly say sausage and mash, and everyone looks at us blankly and has no idea what mashed potato is. So we had the desperate run up to the lady at the bar in the hotel, say, excuse me, this is a really weird question, but is mashed potato a thing in Finland?
And it is.
It is.
It is. And just as heated discussions in Finland as we do in England about whether butter or milk needs to be included in mashed potatoes. So a great planning exercise.
Absolutely. It was really, really good. I mean, human-centric is the important thing about everything. So we talked about, we went through the fairly standard models of how you go through the life cycle of our projects and the importance of business cases and tracking risk and change and everything. But I think the real power came from some of the stories that were coming out. We were able to share a lot of our stories and our real world experiences. Some of those things, quite small things like making mashed potato, and others really big projects that we've worked on in the past, and sort of being able to share some of those sort of scars and sort of war wounds and experience that's been learned the hard way with them as well. but also some of the ideas from the room, challenges that people were facing real world today that they wanted advice on. It wasn't just about telling them how things work in the textbook. It's about bringing that to life for people, I think.
And I think it's really important, you know, when we go out and kind of we're explaining from the PMO perspective, you know, we often start out, and I've said this about before when we're going out to kind of, it's not about telling them what we want to tell them, it's about telling them what they need to know. And sometimes as we start telling them what we think they need to know, we get kind of feedback via questions that mean actually they want to kind of take it in a separate direction. So it's been quite interesting about how we flexed over the 2 days to really be able to answer the questions rather than just tell them what we thought we needed to tell them at the start of the session.
Absolutely, that continuous sort of feedback loop is really, really important. It's not enough to deliver training where you're just sort of playing it by rote and going through the motions. You really need to understand what makes people tick, what are the pain points for them, because they're here to learn and develop themselves. And I think that's what separates doing this kind of training from just watching videos online or going through one of these sort of mass online courses. There's still a lot of value to human-led training in the room because you get that real insight and you can pause things and ask questions and look at a different model. And also, when you've got so many people in the room, I think we found there was a lot of expertise in the room as well, people with different specialist skills. So the group we had, as well as people who work on projects, we had people from sales teams and account managers.
And engineers.
And we're able to bring those ideas together and help everyone in the room visualise how things come together on a large project, which was super exciting.
So we've had a good week. I think we can stick a couple of more pictures on. So we'll look at the following pictures and show other ways that we kind of tried to engage with the human side as we went through the training.
Absolutely.
Enjoy. See you next month.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, and as you can see, this is John, loves to give out the sweets, loves to give out the toys, things for people to fiddle about with while they're actually learning. And I think I think for them, you can probably tell the excitement of actually being back in a training room and doing things with people in that kind of setting. It's a great reminder, really. I mean, one of the, obviously a service that many PMO people do get involved in is actually running training or workshops for their own people within their organisation. Yeah, bangers and mash and sweets, absolutely. But I think it's it's an interesting one in terms of, both these guys have obviously done, professional training for other organizations, but also both of them have done training courses in-house when they are working as PMO people. I just wonder if anybody on this session here today is, actually in the process of developing some courses, or has got quite a lot of experience already in running them in-house, and the ideas of, like, what do you do in order to be able to tell them what it is that they need to know rather than what they should be knowing. But yeah, they're off having an interesting time in Finland, especially after they found out that the airport went on strike and Eileen didn't have any clothes to wear for the next day and the first day of training. So she had a bit of a mare. However, we'll see them again next month. So I've also been out and about. Well, kind of. I've been out and about at home for a couple of days because I actually got some chance to do some training myself. I've not been in a classroom for a little while, so I actually saw this as a bit of a treat for me. Yeah, it was a virtual course and not actually in person, unfortunately. I would love to be back in a real classroom. I really love the whole thing of, being in a room with other people, but also getting really nice lunches and cakes and things in the breaks. But this course was a new one from PMO Learning, which was about the value streams and the PMO. I don't know how many of you are looking at value streams, whether it's something that is coming into your organization, whether it's in your conversations or parlance about it, but I needed to I wanted to understand a lot more of it, because I'm seeing certainly from some of the members of House of PMO having job titles like value stream PMO lead and things like that. And I'm just like, I'm fascinated to what's going on here. Is this just an agile thing? But just to give you just an insight really as to what I've learned about it and what was covered. that's the first day that you can see that was on the agenda, on the learning agenda. And the whole idea of it is that they were looking at using value streams for the PMO's work that it does in kind of centre of excellence work around the project delivery life cycle, and ultimately about where you can see where there are gaps, waste, things that need to change. So it's very much a continuous improvement type of activity that you're utilising the value stream approach for. And it went down really, really well. Because some of the other delegates on the course are finding that, in their PMO, they are looking to do, we know there's some problems, but trying to pinpoint where they are, understanding when they do find where they think the issues are, what may be the unintended consequences of either updating that, changing that, or doing something drastic like getting rid of things. So it was a really interesting, I suppose it's a visualization of, where you're wanting to make improvements in your organization. So it's fascinating. And one of the things that went down really well was this whole concept as well about the learning PMO, but I'll tell you about that in a little sec. So the second day, focusing slightly different, which was more about the PMO being able to utilize some of the lean approaches, which is where value stream comes from. It's not an agile thing, it's actually a lean comes from lean manufacturing. So it's being able to utilize some of those approaches in the way that the PMO offers its services, and also how the PMO chooses to run itself, and also how it manages its own initiatives, the things that we're all working on in the background, other than delivery support, in order to be improving the capability of the PMO. So that's where we started to utilize some of the value stream approaches for the PMO services. You can imagine, if you take one of the many services that the PMO offers, if you looked at, for example, the risk management process, you can visualize that in terms of a value stream and allow you to work through and step through the processes to understand, who gets involved here, what needs to happen here, what's the input, what's the outputs, all of that kind of thing, making it very visual. And I think the learning PMO side of it came from the fact that, this is a brilliant way for the PMO to learn, the people within the PMO to learn. We know that people can obviously take training courses to improve their knowledge and things like that, but actually utilizing this kind of approach really allows the team to come together so they can see the entirety of, what it is that they're doing step by step. Because often, people within the PMOs might not understand how it's all fitting together. And I think the people that were on the course really like this concept about it being a learning PMO, that we're always there, to continuously be learning, because that's the way, the nature of change anyway in the organizations that we're working within. So what I took away from it is that it is a great way for PMOs to carry out continuous improvement in a really practical way. And actually it's based on good practice that's been around for years in terms of kind of the lean approach. So it takes it away from, we talk a lot in PMO about continuous improvement, but what do we actually do, and how do we do it, and how do we choose what it is that we're going to be improving? And this is actually giving you a way to really do that, and to do it well, and to do it, like I say, based on established processes. What I really liked about it, for me, it felt like it was something where actually the PMO can really start to do something about lessons learned. So rather than just doing that recording, or what do we say, that there's lessons recorded, this allows the PMO to be able to use the lessons learned, whether it be in report form, but comes into their backlog and comes into their kind of value streams for continuous improvement. I really like the idea of that, and I think it's something where the PMO can finally start to say, look, we do things with lessons learned, and this is how we do it, and this is how we get things into the backlog, and this is how we'll actually start to see some improvements from those lessons that we've been learning. So it's a really interesting switch, I think, in terms of the PMO being allowed to turn around and say, we've got an approach for this that works, it's tried and tested. What's also interesting when we see stuff like value streams written out there is that people automatically think that it's an agile thing. It's not. It's definitely a lean thing, which for many of you might be already familiar with things like Six Sigma. it falls more into that camp than it does into anything else like SAFe or Scrum or any of that kind of stuff. It does bring in some of those things because, you know, Scrum does take things like the Kanban, but it is very much about making improvements and increasing performance, whether that be in individuals, in the process, in the organization, whatever it might be. The other thing that this value stream brings for the PMO, it gives them the opportunity to develop metrics. And I think we all are very aware of this whole thing about the PMO not adding value, or it adds value, whatever it might be. This whole process and being able to visualize the whole flow of work really does allow the PMO to put metrics around some of this stuff that they can then utilize and demonstrate and show exactly what it is that they've been doing. Philip asked the question, do you see value streams as open-ended or with a finite time frame like a project, and what's the implication for how funding is allocated? Interesting big question, Philip. The interesting thing is that value streams can be seen in different forms. For our thing, from what we learned on the training, is that the value stream for say project delivery, it is finite, because we're always looking at the changes that an organization is going through, or it's wanting to bring on new delivery methods, or we're wanting to do little tweaks here and there. It's a continuous thing. And I think that's how value streams are used a lot in terms of software development as well. It's about the product. So it's a product life cycle, really. So it's not necessarily just related to the project at any one given time. It is that life cycle of a product. And in our sense, on this training course, the project delivery life cycle is that product, and that's what we were covering on day one. A lot of different questions. Again, you know, it's in terms of things like funding implications and stuff like that. There's probably more, you know, that I can share with you, but it really did, honestly, I'm a novice. This is one of the kind of stuff that I've started the conversation really for me, and trying to do more reading around it. Now I understand the basic concepts. So I'm going to have a look at the comments back and see what we can pick up from those, and ask some questions of people that really know what they're talking about. The other thing that was also covered in this is about this whole concept around OKRs, which again, I think we've touched on before at the House of PMO, and we do have a couple of sessions if you want to delve into the library about them. But again, this was about being able to wrap up both OKRs at that PMO level, but also trickle down to the individuals within the team as well. And again, from practical examples that were shared during the training, it's just how much they can really help with the whole team dynamics, that you know, bringing the team together, but they're really working all working together. But also the fact that it is aligned with some of the continuous improvement type work as well. And then finally, the bit which kind of took us a little while to get our head around was around using Kanban boards yourself within the everyday work tasks and activities that a PMO might be doing. Now, for me personally, it felt easier to do this kind of thing if you were doing an initiative within the PMO. So, for example, if you were wanting to update and revitalize the lessons learned process, for example, you may choose to do that in a kind of Kanban type of way. The other thing that I really liked about the whole concept around the Kanban is that you limit the work in progress. So actually, this is about being able, from a PMO point of view, to really prioritize their backlog in terms of the things that they're being asked to do. You know, with these changes that need to happen, or tweaks to certain reporting, or whatever it might be, is that there has to be a limit in terms of what the PMO can do and achieve based on the people that they have within the PMO and the skill sets that they have. So I really like that idea about, you know, I can imagine either virtually or in the office, that the PMO has its Kanban board, so people can quite clearly see what is on that backlog, what is already going to be coming, what is it that we're working on, and what things are we done. So, you know, really interesting. It gave me some, you know, just some different thoughts about how we might not only run the PMO, but how we actually do some of the service type stuff and the initiatives to make what we do better. So some stuff there to think about, and yeah, it's out and about. It was lovely. I don't know about you, but I when somebody says to me, a 2-day course, can you go and do this? First thoughts are like, oh my God, I've got all this stuff to do in my backlog, and things that I need to have, you know, normal work, day-to-day things. And when I finish that, I just think, you know, this is a real treat and a real opportunity. So I'm going to really enjoy it, and I'm going to get really cozy in my, setup and all my notes and everything else. It was lovely. And hopefully, you feel the same way when it comes to learning. So we're on to a new segment now, which hope you like the kind of Pirates of the Caribbean type thing here. But PMO pioneers, what we wanted to do, what we're saying about this is some of the research that's coming out that is specifically touching on PMO or published works, or anything where we can get some insights where other people are sharing. There is a journal called PM World Journal, which comes out on a monthly basis. You can do a search for it and sign up for their monthly e-zine newsletter that comes out, which points you at some of the research that comes out around project management. It includes lots of other things as well, like book reviews, and it also gives real practitioners an opportunity to put together a paper of their own. So not necessarily something that's embedded deep in research, but these are people that just really want to share and give highlights to some of the work that they're doing. And this one here comes from it's a higher education setting based out of the States, and it is about a PMO which includes project managers within it. It has been a PMO that has been in place already for 8 years, and then a new director was appointed. There has been a problem with some unexpected personnel and organisation changes, which meant that there was a need for the overhaul of the PMO function. So the first step for them was about doing an internal questionnaire to see what was going on. This is what they found, and some of this stuff probably feels familiar, looks familiar. There wasn't enough staff in the PMO. There was people leaving, not being replaced. The projects that were currently being managed weren't being managed consistently, and certainly not to the kind of level of standard that they think was required. There was a lot of uncertainty in what was expected in project delivery by the people that were actually delivering the projects. The standards that they had in place didn't allow enough flexibility in project delivery. So this thing where, project managers should be allowed to bring in, some of their own ways of doing things. So thinking about that difference between what absolutely needs to be mandated, and then where's the other aspects where the project manager brings their own professional judgment into delivering that project. So not enough flexibility. And then there was the people not really understanding what the PMO was there to do, so not sure about where the PMO could actually help, and to overcome some of these things. Familiar? Sounds familiar? Probably to a lot of you. You probably, if it's not now, it's probably somewhere where you've been before. So in delving down from their questionnaire, then they were able to pinpoint some of the problems. So some of the problems, for example, were they felt that they had to restructure the PMO because there were quite a lot of tensions with the IT side of the business, a lack of clear definition of what constitutes a project. This is a very common one. A lot of organizations have the same problem. Project initiation process was too complicated, so trying to get through those initial project requests and getting new projects kicked off, far too complicated. Not all the projects in flight were part of the project portfolio. I think that's a fair one to say, that people have got their own pet projects and we're keeping it out of the normal governance type of life cycle process. Again, something that we're all familiar with. Taking too long to scope the projects. So obviously delays in projects being kicked off, delays in projects being delivered, and then taking too long for manual reporting for governance. I think there's all those things that will probably sound familiar to you. So what else did they share in terms of their insights? One of the bits I really liked, actually, which is just stepping back for a second, I'll come to some of the solutions that they had to some of their problems. But one of the things that they said within this paper is that to set in this context that everybody within the PMO had a certain service level, which is what we find commonly when organizations and PMOs are more service-based, so they're offering service to their customers. The service expectations side of it is something that feels really familiar from the PMO competency framework. When we look at some of the skills, knowledge and behavior side of it, these were their service expectations. So these are not necessarily to do with the service levels of which people can expect coming out of their different services. These were about the kind of expectation that goes along with offering services from the PMO. And again, some of them really familiar because we have a similar kind of thing with the PMO competency framework about how you're working with people, are you dealing with problems, all of that kind of good stuff. So I quite liked these are the 7 of them. I think there's about 12 in the paper, so you can go and have a look at that paper. All you need to do is just do a search for PMO World Journal and you'll be able to find the PMO paper that I'm referring to here. And if you want to go and have a look at some of the things that they wrap around what the expectation level is when offering services from the PMO. So finally, from their fixes, I mean, I don't think we're expecting anything that's just going to be like majorly like, wow, I've never really thought about that. But who knows? Here's how they managed to fix some of the things that they did. So they moved from the manual to the automated processes. They streamlined the project request process. They joined up the processes with a PPM tool. This is a biggie. They started to do a lot more automation by utilizing PPM tool technology. They were utilizing Excel, Access and PowerPoint and PDFs beforehand. And it was, again, building the case for the PPM tool, which allowed them to do a lot of the, remove the manual effort. One of the big things for them is that having 4 governance meetings in a month meant that actually there's a lot of man hours went into the whole reporting process, which then, freeing up the time allowed them to look at the project change process, to actually streamline that, but to also join that up with the PPM tool, which of course, if you look at this, the next parts, rescheduling the governance meetings to include IT, that's all it took was to this kind of like angst between the 2 parts. All it took was actually communication to find out, what's the real problem here. And actually it was all about just trying to, be in the same meetings if they needed to be, being in the right meetings and having that voice. So actually, what they thought was a complete overhaul of the PMO in terms of we need to change the entire structure. Actually, it was more about some of the meetings that they have in place. There's a lot of comms and education on the project request process as well to get people aligned to the changes that were happening, obviously, with the PPM tool. And interestingly, in the paper, they talk that the problem around the time to scope and taking it too long actually is still an ongoing concern. So they'd not cracked that one either. But again, for these kind of things, it's always nice to be able to hear what other people are doing, to see some of the problems that we all encounter. And actually, some of the solutions that they're able to move forward with, they're not rocket science, they're not totally innovative and out of reach of anybody. But again, these are some of the things that we'd like to get insights from other people. So yeah, so go and check that one out if you'd like to just read it a little bit more. But the new segment, PMO Pioneers, will be back with some more research papers. We've got more lined up for you. Always good to see what some of the academics are doing as well. But that one's just from a practitioner. Okay, so let's to move on to next segment. It's PMO poll, and this one is about AI. We've got a poll running on the website in a minute, and this comes from a session that we did just before the last HotHouse, which was about trying to understand what PMO people are thinking around the all AI bit. And we wanted to know about, what were they thinking about if we could automate change, just as we've seen in terms of some of the manual things that we do. What ideally would you like to see and take advantage of with some of the AI technologies, with the repetitive manual parts of some of the current PMO work you do, or some of the P3M activity? I've got a quick poll. It would be great if you could give your thoughts to this one. So thinking about AI in PMO, which repetitive stroke manual parts of the PMO activity would you most like to see utilising AI technologies? You can see, obviously, from the screen there, these were just some of the ones that people had done from a brainstorming type activity. You know, we obviously, when it comes to doing some polling, we've got to shorten some of the choices there, but you can just see from the number of things that are on there, just what some of your PMO peers are thinking about that AI is going to give them. We'll do a share of the results there. Surprise, surprise, not reporting is obviously one of the ones where we can see, you know, taking away a lot of the time that we put into reporting on a weekly, monthly basis. But also you can see there it's benefits tracking, and raid logs also get a mention too. Just to show you what the results looked like for the actual polling on the website at the moment, which is finishing in a week or so. You'll find that there, you know, is a lot more people are also saying it's the reporting side that we'd like to see. So part of the role at the House of PMO is that we're, you know, we're starting the AI series. We started it last month. We've got a session coming up in London in October, which will then allow us to kick on and start to address some of the things that are stopping us from being able to get some of this stuff, you know, utilising it within the PMO, but also just thinking about some of we need to make the small steps in order to be able to get those big gains, and also those small steps that allow us to be able to, you know, that feel reachable, because, you know, not all of us are going to be able to be in a position where our organizations are going to go gung-ho with the AI technology and suddenly our PMOs are totally transformed and wonderful. I think we've got a bit of a journey ahead of us, and that's what we're going to be covering over the coming months. So thanks for that. It's always good just to have that check, see whether we're still on the right lines. So finally, segment of today, it's hot seats, and I've got a really interesting one for us today. We've got Orian joining us. Hello, Orian, you okay?
Yes, I am. Lovely to see you today. Thank you for inviting me to come and join you on this great program.
Yeah, so we've known each other for a few years now, and one of the you know, the reason why is obviously you're working for this company called TSO. Just tell us really briefly what TSO is before we get into finding out a little bit more about you.
Well, TSO is the stationery office. For those who are familiar with us, we're part of what used to be the Her Majesty Stationery Office. So that's a bit of history for you, just in a sentence. But we are publishing for a lot of public sector clients, and we also have a large amount of content, which many of your listeners will be familiar with from the days of the OGC. So we were part of taking best practice from communities into works that are then used in a place of practice, so people can implement that knowledge in a place of work. So things around project management, IT service management, those are some of the areas of the best practice that we continue to publish in even now.
And one of the reasons why I've invited Orian on today, other than being a sparkling personality, is that the House of PMO has worked with TSO on the PMO competency framework and other things as well, because it's not just about books anymore, is it? The whole publishing world. I mean, I'm fascinated. I love books. Eileen, if she was here, she'd be gushing. You know, she's all loves her books. But publishing today is not just about that anymore, is it? Really?
No, it isn't. You know, as I look across the many different portfolios that we publish in, so you'll know some of the content that we publish that you will see in other places. So, for example, we publish the highway code for the DVSA, and from that content, we now have so many versions of learnings and applied knowledge that people can tap into in different ways, so that you're actually helping support people through their journey. So you're thinking about the outcome of what people are trying to do with that knowledge, and you're providing the knowledge to them in different formats that they can access. So whether it's a book, whether it's a short training course, or whether it's an app, all of those things are effectively content. And that information is what will be used to underpin the the skills that they're trying to build or the objectives that they're trying to accomplish. And what we find is that depending on the content, you might find that some of it is just a book. And sometimes you just need an app, but it's where you're trying to drive change and influence people's behavior to conform to a standard, because that's effectively what it is. Best practice in the area that I work in is around trying to get people to think about things in a systematic way and to make those processes repeatable, so that you're creating skilled workforce that you can hire somebody with that qualification, and you know that they will understand, for example, in your sector, how to run, how to work within a PMO. Do they have the competencies? So all of that content that would be first in a publication is then mirrored throughout all the other products that will underpin the outcomes that person's trying to do. So your section earlier about value streams was very interesting, because that's effectively what we're doing. We're just thinking very much about the part we play in providing the information that people require to achieve their final outcome. So we think about where they're coming from, where they may have heard about this content, and what their objective is. And we just make sure that we fill the gaps so that we're providing the knowledge, information that they need to achieve that outcome.
I've always been fascinated to understand where, talk about best practice, and we all know and love, things like the P3O manual or whatever it might be. How does somebody like TSO, how do you identify like potential authors, or do they come to you? Like how does it work? This maybe new knowledge, or that kind of thing.
That's a little bit of alchemy. I'll do my best to explain it. Largely, people will know us, and we're in an established market where we're a recognized publisher because of the quality of our products and our audience that we serve. So being a leader in that market takes generations and decades of reputation and just consistent delivery, and making sure that we're putting out things that people will use and need for their roles, or for the purposes of that content, shall we say. But what we're finding now is that whilst we rely on best practice is a lagging measure. So you're looking kind of at what people have done. But when you're entering into the new world of new and different, we're kind of now needing to tip the scale a little bit and start going into the more of the, like you say, pioneering areas. So areas where there is new emerging knowledge and know-how. So there's a delicate balance to be had between those. So sometimes people do approach us and we will evaluate, the size of the audience. There's a lot of research that will go into it. And that's largely the role that I play in business development. I'm not business development as in looking at a sales necessarily. I'm looking at the growth of the products and portfolios that we're serving, or we're introducing to our portfolio of products. So that's identifying who are the sort of thought leaders, keeping your ear to the ground, considering what are the needs of a business, or the needs of society in general. Like, what are the pieces that what is the content, what is the information that people are reaching out for, what are they trying to accomplish, and where are those gaps? And once we kind of weigh those different factors up, no different to how you would have a go, no go decision when it comes to whether you would kick off a project. In a similar way, we have that similar process in our business. We bring the right people to the table, sort of collaborate together to create content that will meet the need of the audience that has that demand on that information or that knowledge. And then we'll also seek to make sure that we build relationships and partnerships within the ecosystem where that content will be feeding into. So it really is keeping your ear to the ground in more than one way, both with our existing clients within the public sector, private sector, but also keeping our eyes and ears open for the new and different things. Now, the first thing that I will say is we have been approached, and we sometimes get many proposals, as publishers do. And I think in the day of AI, there's a lot of questions around, oh, everybody has a book in them, as long as I give my idea and I can quickly whip something together. I will say that everybody has a role in creating content and contributing towards content. However, not everybody has a book in them. Everyone has their story. Some stories need to be shared and told and can be used to leverage, you know, it sort of bring the centralized thoughts of a community together. And some people have a real skill in being able to put that to paper. Whereas there's others who maybe have a very good critical eye and are very good as reviewers. There's some which would contribute towards workshops and discussions, others who would contribute to different places. And it's just finding out who, getting the right mix of who comes together for a project to deliver, and in what ways that people to interact with content, whether that's a publication or a training course or whatever form that content will take as it goes. So we do encourage people to interact as best as possible, and don't be offended if we say, well, you know, maybe this one isn't quite where we're seeking, because there are many forms of publishing out there. We have the reputation we have as a publisher is because of that quality standard and the sort of bandwidth that we're seeking from anybody that we're wishing to publish for. So by all means, do reach out, have a conversation, because if anything, the skill and experience we have, even if we are not your publisher for you, we want to make sure that it's a right fit, because it has to be a win-win situation. And I'm always willing to have conversations with people who do have ideas and want to do various things with content. But you know, you've got to go through the whole process of qualifying whether that meets the need, it's of a standard that other people will accept, and you know, it's got an audience, a market. So all of those things do play into it. So it's quite a complex arena for us to consider.
Okay, right. Well, I'd be interested. Does anybody else think that they've got a book in them after what you've just heard from Orian? Just really briefly, Orian. So you said that you actually work in a very project way. Just really briefly, have you worked on something really, you know, recently that you really loved doing?
Well, for two reasons, I'm going to speak about something. I have this week just been involved with the Telehealth Awareness Week, and so there's some content out there that speaks about a product that we've taken recently to market, which is TSIM. So TSIM standing for Telehealth Service Implementation Model. It's a telehealth framework, so that's where you bring the clinical and the digital pathway into a standardized approach. So that framework that was created began as a method of working within the Medical University of South Carolina, MUSC. They have a telehealth facility, and this was their best practice that they were using within their organization. They then have begun to expand that across into other areas and spotting it from a distance. So that was through research, keeping an ear to the ground. We approached them and said, look, this is really fantastic. What are you going to do with this? Have you considered publishing? And then that became a publication at first. And from the publication, we recognized that that knowledge would be very flat if it was just in a publication. So we've now extended it into creating a training course, which will then continue to build the content out, and now makes it a lot easier to sort of disseminate that knowledge. And that really is that full life cycle of development, from sort of ideation all the way through to delivery. And now that course is available across the world for people who are seeking to implement telehealth. Now, what I found interesting with that project, and this is the second reason I mention it, is that it's so similar to the way that the PMO would approach things. And it does make me think that in a lot of areas, best practice from one area quite often bleeds into best practice of another area. And that's the beauty of working in the publishing area, where we see different sectors speaking about, you know, content or method of work, because you begin to pick up lessons no different to what you've seen there from your pioneering section. I think there's probably a lot of crossover between sectors rather, that can actually help embed best practice in other ways. So, you know, I love that aspect of my work of taking stuff to market. We also have other exciting new products coming out to market. So we have something coming in the pipe for digital transformation. There's other products related to managing complexity with organizational governance with regard to IT security. That's again very, very exciting, and there's some announcements coming in the new year around that. Experience, how do you bring the human into the consideration of all the processes that we're building? I think no different to having a tool set, as you can imagine. All of these are just effectively tools, and you got to know which tool to pick up at the right time. So I would encourage anybody who's listening today to have a consideration of some of these other best practices that are out there, and consider it your chisel or your screwdriver when you have that need and you see that there is a gap in an organization. I think it could be something that the PMO office certainly can champion as some of the ideas for instilling change.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have a section here actually at HotHouse, which is called Steel with Zeal, which is actually about looking at other industries and seeing what we can pinch. So I'll look forward to having a look at that one and see what we can nab and share at a future HotHouse. So thank you very much, Orian. If you have got a book in you, she's just said you're more than welcome to get in touch. Be inundated with proposals. But thank you very much. It's lovely to see you. And just to wrap up really quickly, we've got more stuff coming as ever. You can check out on the events page at House of PMO, and these are just a small selection of things that are coming your way. So that's it for today. Thank you very much, everybody. You take care, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.